rise.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yeah, but it's going to do it.
Good evening. Welcome to the April 13th, 2023 Planning Board meeting. First on the agenda is Glenacom Lake Cell Tower, Walton Drive. Is anyone from the cell tower here tonight? Is anyone representing the cell tower? I'm sorry. We can circle back to that.
No, we don't, there's no action on the
Okay.
private applicant.
So then
You have
Bob,
a
go ahead.
resolution before you this evening.
Yeah,
Pat, Rich, and Mike didn't have any comments? Bob?
No, you have a resolution before you.
okay. I'll make a resolution of the Planning Board of the Town of Carmel, number 23-06, April 13, 2023, tax map number 87.5-1-90. Homeland Towers LLC and Verizon Wireless, Walton Drive, site plan and special permit denial.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you, Bob. Next on the agenda tonight is Gateway Summit, multifamily Lot 6, 2054 Route 6. It's for a corrective resolution. Mike and Rich, I don't believe you had any comments, is that correct?
No, this is for Gateway, this is just a clarification on a resolution, no comments.
Great. And Pat?
So all this is the number of units remains the same. The number of bedrooms in the townhouses is shifted slightly. But the ultimate number stays the same. So it's just the correction of the numbers, nothing else. All the conditions remain identical and the same.
For everyone else on the board, there's still 150 units, which was proposed to us a couple months ago. There's a little mix, not even much of a mix of 2-bedroom to 3-bedroom. So it's just really to clean up some administrative work.
Doesn't change the footprint, it's just the interior.
Same footprint.
It's a ministerial change,
Okay.
that's all, just a point of clarification, that's all.
Yeah, please.
It's exactly what the board approved.
I'll make a resolution of the Planning Board of the Town of Carmel, number 23-07, April 13, 2023, tax map number 55.-2-24.6-1 and 55.-2-24.6-2, Gateway Summit Multifamily Housing Lot 6, amended final site plan.
Second.
Seconded by John. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Similarly, on the fairways, on item number 3 tonight, it's a fairways, a multifamily Lot 7, same address, 2054 Route 6. Again, it's for a corrective resolution, same mix we just mentioned, with the 2 different sections there, if you will. Bob, would you mind?
Yeah, I'll make a resolution of the Planning Board of the Town of Carmel, number 23-08, April 13, 2023, tax map number 55.-2-24.8-1 and 55.-2-24.8-2, the Fairways Multifamily Housing Lot 7, amended final site plan.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Seconded by John, all in favor. Thank you. Moving right along tonight.
Yay.
Next on the agenda is Platinum Propane, 1035 Route 6, on for a public hearing. Mike?
Yeah, this is on for public hearing. My only comment is they got the variances at the last zoning board meeting, so
They did receive it.
they did.
Thank you. Rich?
This is on for a public hearing, there are still some more ministerial comments that need to be addressed, and they ultimately will need the approval from the regulatory agencies, grand scheme of things in New York State DOT, so.
Okay. And Pat?
No issues. This is on for public hearing this evening.
Good evening. Does anyone from the public wish to be heard on this tonight? Please come up, state your name, and speak into the microphone.
Chairman, vote to open the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good evening.
Okay, I didn't realize I was going first.
Well, you're really fourth on the agenda.
Okay. So I'm just going to read what I wrote. I am here representing those of us who got the letter that live within 500 feet of the proposed location.
Can you state your name, please?
I'm sorry, Robin Webb Lopez, 24 Baldwin Lane in Mahopac. So what I'm going to read is putting together the thoughts and concerns of us as a whole. So, good evening. My name's Robin Webb Lopez, 24 Baldwin Lane. We're here in response to the notice for the public hearing we received regarding the plans submitted by Platinum Propane. I've been asked to express the concerns of the residents and community members located within 500 feet of the proposed location, many of whom are unable to attend due to family and work commitments. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to be heard on this proposal. We have many concerns about the location of this facility, not necessarily the facility itself, but the location, which would essentially be in our backyards. The first being safety. According to the plan, nearly 60,000 gallons of a highly volatile substance would be stored and transported at this location. According to New York State Inspection and Violations Report, Platinum Propane has a history of inspection violations. Given the high stakes of this type of business, there is no room for error. The proposed location is densely populated. An accident in this location would result in a significant loss of life and property. Last year, there was a leak from a propane truck at Barton Orchards, which ignited and exploded, resulting in substantial loss of property and revenue. Thankfully, no one was injured. In a more densely populated area, such as our neighborhood, loss of life and property would be devastating should there be a leak causing an explosion. There's a preschool 2 doors down. Many homes and businesses within the 500 feet perimeter of the proposed location, all would be put at risk should this project move forward in this specific location. Property values. If I were looking to purchase a home, I would be deterred by a propane facility housing nearly 60,000 gallons of propane being stored within 500 feet of my home. If I were looking for a school for my children, I would not enroll them in a school within 500 feet of a propane facility. In all fairness, we were there first. We purchased our homes as an investment as well as a place of safety and solace for our families. For most of us, our homes are our greatest financial investment. The propane facility would be in our backyards, posing safety risks and devalued properties. For these reasons, we respectfully request that you not allow this project to move forward in this location due to the close proximity to homes, schools, places of worship, and businesses. Safety and peace of mind in our existing neighborhood must take precedence in this case. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Robin.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I do have a couple of things in writing. I don't know if we're allowed to submit anything.
Yes, sure.
Okay. Couple of statements. I do have one of my neighbors who couldn't be here, took the time to write a very thorough explanation.
You might, Robin, you might want to email, do you have an email? Can you email them? Or
I
is
mean,
it-
I'm sure that I could scan
You
them.
might want to send them to Rose so she can distribute them to everybody.
Okay,
Rose is our secretary.
so I will scan them and
And she will get
email
them,
them.
she will get them out to everybody.
Is that,
If she has a written copy, she can submit it to the board right now.
Okay.
I mean, I'm happy to do both, so I'll contact Rose tomorrow and scan an
And
email.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of people that are not here tonight, this way they'll get them.
You can keep the public hearing open for written submission in the next 10 days.
Okay.
Okay.
And Rose won't be in until Monday, so there'll be
That's true.
Dawn who's in the office tomorrow.
We're happy to take what you have, but also I'm more concerned with the people that aren't here tonight, so we want to make sure they get them also.
Okay, perfect. And again, thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak. Who should I give them to?
Thank you, Robin. Good evening, Adam.
Good evening. Adam Thyberg, Insight Engineering Surveying, Landscape Architecture, PC. Can we respond?
I'd like to hear, any comments from? You went through it. Yeah. I want to see if anyone else from the public wants to be heard tonight. Then this way you can get up there once. Anyone else from the public wish to be heard tonight? Adam, you going to try to respond? You want to respond to?
Yeah,
comments?
absolutely, and I appreciate the comments. Few things, though, I want to point out, clarify. This is a 12-acre site. The entirety of the development that we're talking about is a little over an acre that's against Route 6, kind of centrally located along the frontage of the property. So on a quick look, from the church, the tanks are 340 more or less feet. From the southern property line, where I think there's a multifamily residential building to the south, that is over 360 feet away. And then to the nearest other residential property, the tanks are at a minimum of 450 feet away. So I just want to just speak to the characterization that this is in people's backyards. There's a significant distance, a wooded distance. There's a wetland between us and the properties to the south.
So would you say half a dozen businesses and homes within 500 feet?
There are other properties around the outer property line, but again, this being a 12-acre site, yeah, it's within 500 feet, I would say yes. But again, apart from the church that's directly to the north and the one residential property that's directly to the south that are both well over 300 feet away, the nearest property, or residential property other than those two are a minimum of 450 feet away, and some of them are greater than 500 feet away. And I also just want to remind the board that initially the tanks were shown further north on the site. I don't know if the board remembers. Our initial application showed the tanks to be in this area up here, and because of NFPA specified setbacks, they were moved to their location here, which is, again, much further, over 300 feet away from the church property that is to the north, that I think is the one that contains the preschool that was discussed.
On that map, so what's the closest residential property?
The closest residential property you can't see on here. It's 360 feet down. It's about down over here,
Okay.
On the other side of the wetland here. When you go to the other adjacent residential properties, they're significantly further back. Again, the closest one being about 450 feet away, and going up from there, that sit well uphill through the woods, and and a significant distance away from the actual development on the site. So again, this is a large property. The development is taking place on a relatively small piece of it. I also want to point out that...
Question. The distances that you're quoting, are they from the tanks or from the property line?
From the tanks.
Okay.
The tanks to the property lines, I should say.
The adjacent property line.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes. And we do have Stacy Silvers of Hiltz Propane, who can speak in more depth if you'd like any more detail as to the safety features. Again, this is not just a couple of tanks that somebody's going to dig a hole and stick them in the ground. This is going to be a state-of-the-art facility that's going to meet all of the NFPA safety requirements. And Stacy can speak to that in more detail if you'd like.
Adam, is it 60,000 gallons?
It's two 30,000-gallon tanks, yes.
So, let me ask a question, maybe it's for Stacy, but why not two 15,000 gallon tanks? Why do you need 60,000 gallons compared to 30? I'm just picking a number rather than 30,000.
Right, based on the market that that Platinum Propane is looking to move into, and their anticipated demand, and what they think they need to operate their business profitably. That was the volume that they came to, and beyond that, I would need the applicants to speak to where they landed as far as the size of the tanks.
So is the plan to deliver propane to homes for heating and all, not just people filling up barbecue grills and things like that?
Right. No, this would be for home heating deliveries on a retail basis. Again, not people coming to the site,
Yeah.
them being delivering the propane.
So is there any other property on your 12 acres that is further away from homes?
I mean, is there anywhere else on the property where we could put it that would be further? I'd have to take a look. It would be, I mean, if we're talking about shifting it a few feet, but generally speaking, this is as far from the other properties as you can be. It's also located along the existing driveway, which is part of the equation in terms of how the site was laid out. But again, this is pretty well centrally located along the frontage, meaning about as far as you can be from, you know, the neighbors on either side, and located all the way to the front along Route 6, where you have another, you know, if our development is 1.3 acres, you know, you've got another, you know, close to 11 acres of property outside of that that's not being developed.
And what about,
Go ahead, please.
what about trucking and traffic? What do they expect that impact to be in that area?
These are going to be smaller service-type vehicles that'll be coming in. I think we had mentioned a couple of times a day, something there, a couple in the morning, load up, and then go out and make their deliveries. And then I think we were saying it was like once a week there would be a larger truck that would make a bulk delivery. So again, this is currently, there's an application into the Department of Transportation for the driveway work, and they're looking at, you know, all of those elements.
And would this deliveries be during the week, on the weekends? What are the hours that they could expect that traffic to be there?
I think generally it's going to be during normal business hours during the week, maybe Saturdays, but it should be clear that I think in an emergency situation, it would be a 24-hour potential, but they wouldn't have regular operating hours, you know, beyond normal business hours. You know,
And
but
would
in
it
the
be-
event,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
but in the event of some kind of emergency, they would potentially have to go to the site.
And will there be people there 24/7 to make sure there's no issues? What's going to be who's going to be on site, I guess is the question.
I think there's going to be a couple of employees during regular business hours. And then, again, I don't know that there's going to be someone physically standing there 24 hours a day. I don't think so. But there are other safety features that are built into the system that are automated for safety in the event of something happening, if somebody wasn't there or whatever the case may be, that Stacy could probably speak to if you wanted more detail on that. And we did provide a fire safety analysis. It's a very thorough document that was provided to the board that gives you all the details in terms of all those systems and redundancies in terms of safety.
Thank you.
Questions? You can go back up there. Please do.
No, by all
Now's a
means.
good time.
Okay, do I need to say my name again?
Please.
Okay, Robin Webb Lopez, 24 Baldwin Lane. And first, I want to say that I have reviewed the plan, and it is quite thorough, and they've done, you know, a great job, and I'm sure that they're going to meet whatever the New York State safety regulations are. That being said, the accident that happened at Barton's happened during the transfer of propane, and that's when vapors are in the air, and this is where an accident can happen, that can become ignited, and, you know, and that's how that explosion happened. So, you know, will they take every precaution? I'm sure that they will, but accidents do happen, as happened at Barton Orchards. And because this is such a densely populated area, we can't afford that type of accident to happen. Yes, the church is I believe you said 300 plus feet, but, you know, immediately behind the church is a whole neighborhood. And yes, it is a wooded area that is buffering their proposed location and our neighborhood, but if there's a fire, all of those things are combustible. You know, so these are all things that I believe need to be taken into consideration, and it's not just the things that are immediately to the left and right of the property. There's, you know, businesses and facilities across the street. It's only a 2-lane road. So it's not really not that far of a distance from where they're proposing putting this facility. Can this facility benefit the area by, you know, providing this service? Possibly. You know, I'm not against what they're proposing. I just believe they need to find a safer location in which to put this business.
Thank you.
Thank you. State your name, please.
Good evening. Stacy Silvers. I'm with Hiltz Propane Systems. We're located out of Pennsylvania, south of Harrisburg. I just kind of wanted to introduce myself and our company. Joe and Mike, from Platinum approached us concerning putting in a propane plant in your community. And when we do that, when we have someone approach us, we do the complete fire safety analysis. We have engineers on our team, some very talented and well-known in the industry engineers in our team. And what we do is we go through all of the requirements for the state of New York, for NFPA 58, for the 2017 International Fire Code that's recognized by the state of New York. And we make sure that everything is good because our name is going to be on this plant as well. We install systems in the northeastern United States, and we're well known in the industry for installing these types of plants, both above ground and below ground. So if I could just go through and address just a few of the items that were mentioned here. In the fire safety analysis in Form 7.1, we have to take into account any occupancies that are over 50 people. So that would include the church or if there were any other occupancies like that around. And the number that we came up with was, it's from the code, it's referenced on the pages prior to that. It's the worst case scenario at this site. So at this site, if we had a release of propane at the tanks, the number that we came up with, we didn't come up with, we used from the documentation is 328 feet. So if there were a release and it did ignite, that is the distance around that we would look for any occupancies. This is not homes or anything where there's lower. This is where there's congregations and so forth with the church and the school. So, speaking to that as well, we also install these types of tanks, 30,000 gallon tanks and 60,000 gallon tanks, to feed communities. So when they're building the houses, they will run the propane gas underground like natural gas to all the homes as they're being built. So these tanks can be within 50 feet of a home, and that is code for a 30,000 gallon tank. Now, being that Joe and Mike are putting these tanks underground, the firefighter response and water availability is greatly reduced. In fact, I don't know if I can flip to it fast enough here, but in Section 8, we reached out to Fire Chief Andrew Roberto back in November to get all of the numbers for their firefighter qualifications, response time, and water availability to this site. Being that these tanks are underground, what is required is 250 gallons per minute for 10 minutes is what it would be, what was needed. And Mr. Roberto said that he can supply much more than that, and that is documented on one of the sheets in here. Let me go through some of the other questions. One of the other questions was about the 15,000 gallon tanks. When you bring in a transport load, a tractor trailer load, they're around 12,000. And you can't run a tank down to nothing and still have storage and maintain what you need. So 30,000 is the standard in our industry. It's the most common tank that we use. And due to what they want to do in the community as far as delivering and having storage for in the winter, if supply were low and so forth, they would have enough, is 2 30,000 gallon tanks. Let me think if there's anything else. As far as safety at the site, the tanks being underground, the only thing that you'll see of the tanks is the dome that comes out of the ground and some piping that would go underground and then come up where the trucks load. And with that distance, there are a number of safety mechanisms that have been implemented by NFPA 58. And they're not necessarily, I know what you're referring to, I've heard of the incident that you were referring to, and that was on a truck. And I understand that there will be trucks at the site, but as far as the tanks go, there are a number of valves that will shut down in case there is a release. So just like if you're at the gas station and you pull away, there's only so much gas that can be released,
So
just like your
Stacy-
propane grill.
I'm sorry,
Yes.
can you expand, you started to touch on it, but Robin brought up a point about the accident she was referring to happened when you were transferring propane. I understand the safety when the tanks are in the ground and the propane's in them.
Correct.
But how do you respond to Robin's concern with the transfer of propane?
From what I
From a
understand.
safety perspective.
Right, from what I understand and what I've been described to for that incident, what the gentleman just described the incident to me, that would be a truck, and it sounded like the driver, and I don't want to say for sure because I don't know the driver, I don't know the company, but there would be safety mechanisms on the truck that could shut it down. They're remote, and the driver would be trained. From what I understand, Platinum Propane does annual training with CTEP, which is the industry standard, which would teach their drivers on how to shut that down, because the very same thing could happen at your home when they're delivering there as well. So the tractor trailers and the bobtails are the ones that deliver to your home. They would have ways of shutting them down. If the hose were connected, the same thing would happen, just like at the pull away at a gas station where only that much would come out. I don't know if you have anything to add about your trucks or your drivers.
Good evening, I'm Joe Kogas with Platinum Propane. Just to speak specifically about the Barton Orchard, now I wasn't there either, I don't know. I believe, based on my knowledge of propane, that may have been a driver's error. My understanding is there's cement bollards, and I believe they may have backed up into one of those bollards and damaged one of the valves, causing the release. Now, our drivers specifically are trained in those situations they have emergency shut-offs, that there are additional valves built into the truck, at least ours have them, that would have stopped that from happening. Additionally, when I met with Chief Andrews on site, I had said to him, and we have no problem putting this in writing, that once a year on the annual basis, we'll provide CTEP training for homeowners as well as all the local men and women in the fire, and put on live demonstrations. I have a certified trainer that would come in, and we do a lot with compressed air. When when you have a tank and you're trying to train firefighters how to extinguish the tank, you use compressed air so they don't actually have to deal with the propane, but we would put those on, on a yearly basis. We'll put that in writing for the board or for the town, so you guys, have proof that we will put on these. I have no problem doing that, and I think it's a good thing to give back to the community, so events like that don't happen. So our drivers specifically go through those CTEP training. We do them on a yearly basis. Thank you.
Is that CTEP?
CTEP, Certified Employee Training Program. And there's different levels based on, your employees. There's ones for drivers, there's basic, there's tank moving, there's, a lot of different levels. But yeah, any other?
Do you guys have any questions?
Just one question. On that incident that was referred to, what exactly happened as a result of backing up and the valve leaking? Did something blow up?
So I believe that the valve was damaged, causing propane to be leaking out of the truck. Propane's in liquid state in the truck, so once it mixes with air, it boils. It boils kind of like a pile of water boils, so into a vapor cloud. And I guess the vapor cloud burned. I don't know. I didn't see what happened, but I believe it burned and caught fire.
And is this something that happened in New York State or Connecticut?
In the, yeah, I'm
I
not,
think he says Connecticut.
Connecticut, yeah, it's up the Barton Apple Orchard, correct? Which is in Polk. In Polk, yeah.
And was there loss of life, loss of property damage?
but
What
in my
happened?
opinion, that was exactly why, you do training programs, so that your drivers, your men and women that are responsible for the fuel and what they're doing in the field are trained properly on how to deal with that situation. When that situation happens, you panic. But, my drivers, we have remotes that shut the whole system down should that happen, and they close all of those valves. I believe, my guess is that driver probably panicked and was, saw the propane and just didn't, it was a blur.
So just to draw it out, what exactly happened? Did something blow up? Did loss of life occur?
No one, to my understanding, no animals were hurt. Probably some structures were damaged, but I don't believe as much of no animals or human life was hurt or lost.
And this conceivably could have happened on a home delivery?
This could have
as
happened
well?
anywhere, yeah, correct. So, our facility is for experienced men and women doing this. It's not, where there's, people petting animals and buying apples and stuff. This is, our isolated property where we don't have people in that immediate area.
And one last question. I think, Vicki, you had asked about what type of security or safety is in place
Sure.
when management is not there. What happens at night?
So I believe we have fencing built in all around our facility, locked, gated, controls that shut down power so no one can't just go and hook up to it. Probably similar to what happens at a gas station at night when people turn it off.
Cameras with motion detectors?
Yeah.
So, Joe, tell us about if there are any history of violations, any previous violations. Give us, because I'm sure we're all going to go back and Google it. So
Yeah, I'm going to
tell
Google
us-
it myself. The only one I could think of off the top of my head was we probably had a DOT violation with one of our trucks. I don't remember what it was. It was many years ago. I can't speak to exactly what it was, but if that's what was referred to, it may have been a taillight out. It may have been, I just don't recall. I mean, it was I don't know, 4-ish years ago, if that's the incident.
How long has Platinum been in business?
6-7 years.
And mostly in Pennsylvania, you said?
So they're essentially our propane consultant.
Okay.
They're helping us with all the engineering. We are based kind of more in Westchester, Millwood, Mount Kisco. We have an office. Anything else?
Great.
That's okay. You're speaking for the community, so please feel free.
So Robin Webb Lopez, and the gentleman is making my point to some extent because he's, when we're talking about what happened at Barton Orchards, it is a large farm, and so it's not densely populated as the area is where they're proposing to put this propane facility. And I don't doubt that they are going to train everyone and that they're going to take every precaution, but accidents happen, as it did at Barton Orchards. And if there is an explosion, there's a lot that can catch fire, and fire spreads. And there's a preschool immediately next door, whether it's 350 feet, it is immediately next door to where they're proposing the facility. I don't have an issue with the facility itself, just the location. I would ask that they find a location that is not densely populated, because if there were an accident such as that happened at Barton Orchards, it could lead to the loss of life. Luckily, that did not happen at Barton's. And you can Google what happened at Barton Orchard. It was in every newspaper. They lost quite a bit of their farm. So it was a significant event.
May I ask you a question? How do you respond to the point that this was not the facility itself, but the delivery truck?
Listen, we're all human, and if humans are operating these vehicles and humans are performing the transfer of propane, of liquid propane, a human could potentially make a mistake, and then it escapes into the air and it becomes combustible.
No, but I guess my point is that would be as possible and as much of an issue on a routine propane delivery to a house. So how is this different in your view?
The significance of it is where it's located. This would be going on multiple times a day, which increases the potential for something like this happening. It's maybe, a one in however many, if with home delivery, but when you have trucks going in and out and transferring of propane going on throughout the day, every day, you exponentially increase the potential for something like this happening. And in a densely populated neighborhood, again with a preschool next door, not an appropriate location, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Adam, I want to change gears a little bit and hear more about the architectural. I'd like to look at a little bit on the aesthetics of it. I'd like to know what we're going to see from Route 6 in either direction,
Right.
and what the building materials are going to be.
Yes, and Michael Picarillo, the architect, is here tonight and can speak to any specific questions that you have. But again, just for the benefit of the public and for the board, the general concept here is that, again, we've got an existing building that is used residentially now. It's going to be renovated and converted to the office. That would be this building here. The main building that you see on the site is a proposed
Adam,
building.
can you just, I'm sorry to interrupt you. From where that, when I pull into the driveway now, there's a house on the right and a garage
Right.
in the back. Where were you, is that where the house is
The,
now?
the garage that you see that currently exists sits in around here
Okay.
on the opposite side of the driveway from the house.
Yes.
It's not a huge garage, but it sits about there. From the road, what you're going to see is these sides of what we're calling the lean-to building. Again, this is a three-sided structure. It's intended for the use as a shelter for, or a cover for the service vehicles. I guess I'll say the west side would be open so that the vehicles can come in and out, and the other three sides will look like a regular building. And so from the road, it'll appear like it's a fully enclosed building.
So you wouldn't see the trucks from the road?
You would
when
not.
they
Yeah,
park there?
the purpose of the architecture is to have what at least appears like a regular building on the site, and then the vehicles would access it from the back on the other side, from the driveway over here. But from the road, yeah, you wouldn't see the vehicles. They would be stored inside. And again, I've Michael Picarello, the architect, who can speak in more detail.
Good evening, Michael Picarello, MAP Architects. We're here to talk a little bit about the architecture of that structure we spoke about. So we're planning on putting what's called a T111 finish on the siding, and then that would we would apply a solid stain finish, so it'd be gray. Sorry, I don't have a gray sample. And then the roof would be a metal black standing seam like this. So we think architecturally it'll look great.
That siding, I'm sorry, I wasn't familiar with the name of it. Is that a cement board, is it vinyl? What? Composite?
It's a wood siding,
Oh, okay.
T111.
Plywood? Oh, okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Porcupines love to eat.
And then, but again, it'll be a solid stain, gray. And then,
Roof would be nice.
basically, you get black. A little sharp. A little very nice. Any other questions about the building?
The doors, the sliding doors, are they going to be functional?
What's called the front? The doors, probably not. No. Again, the opening is facing inside the site, so you won't see it.
Lighting?
Sorry?
What about lighting?
Is there, do we have a lighting plan to the building itself?
We do, yeah. There would be, there are a couple of canopy lights that are shown, I think, just inside of this structure, also underneath the canopy. And I think those are specified on the Hiltz drawings. Those are the explosion-proof rated down lights that would be set in the ceiling of both.
So is the lighting on the exterior or in the canopy? In the canopy?
Yeah.
Not inside where the trucks are parked?
There'll have to be lights inside the garage itself for safety purposes, just.
So by code, would those have to be Class 1, Division 1?
Yeah.
Yeah, he just said they were going to be.
So we have two lights shown here, the little black squares. So those would be set inside.
So they would have to be explosion proof. And what about fire suppression?
Adam, use them, yeah. Thanks.
If there is.
Yeah, those would be explosion-proof.
I'm sorry?
They would be explosion-proof rated.
And what about a fire suppression system inside?
That, I think I would need somebody else to speak to.
I mean, it's more of a question for me, if it's required by code, that's.
Yeah, Stacy might be able to speak to that.
Per NFPA 58 in the International Fire Code, it is not required for this site, although the fire safety analysis does go through all of the required gallons per minute and what can be supplied by the fire department.
Does the board have a copy of that?
I believe you all have copies, correct? Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Folks have any other questions?
So I'd like to propose, is we've received some comments today from the neighbors that have not been distributed yet. This is an important area, obviously, as you enter our town. You heard a lot about safety. I think we'd all like to research little violations if we can. I believe I'd like to close the public hearing tonight, but leave it open for 10 days, written comments. So if there's anything else that wishes to be heard on this, and then we can, you could probably get on the schedule for the next meeting.
Okay, I'll work with Rose to get on for
Can we
in a
have
couple
motion
weeks.
to close the public hearing, but leave it open?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing, but leave it open for 10 days for written comments.
Okay.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Robin, you look confused. Public hearing's closed. Comment, you can send your comments into Rose over the next 10-day period, and she will distribute anything to us. And then we will review this again at the next meeting, or when Adam and the applicant's ready.
And
Would you like me to scan what I gave you?
Yeah, we can't talk from there because you can't hear it, but as I mentioned earlier, please, any literature you have, please, I'll give this to Rose also, but if there's anything, I'll give this to Rose, but if there's anything different, please get it to Rose, and she will distribute it to the entire team.
Mr. Chairman, would the board entertain asking Pat to prepare a resolution for the next meeting in the event that
We can have
we're
it
ready to?
prepared, but we won't apply it unless we're satisfied.
Exactly, yeah, if it could be prepared for
Adam,
that meeting.
where are you with the DOT approvals and having their reviews?
Yep, we're into the DOT. I spoke with Cassandra yesterday, and we expect our first round of comments in the next couple weeks. And then we'll move on to our stage 2, and we'll keep you apprised as to that progress.
Okay.
So like I said, if Rich is satisfied, Mike's satisfied, Pat's satisfied, and we're satisfied, we can.
Okay, so we'll have a draft resolution
We'll have a
prepared.
resolution ready to go, but we will not apply it unless,
Understood.
all right?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Next on the agenda, New York City DEP, West Branch Auxiliary Dam, 34 Drewville Road, site plan. Mike, no comments from you, I believe? Any comments from you?
No,
on
this
the
is
dam?
really a road widening, straightening, repairing, so there's not much with the zoning side of it.
Okay. Rich, I believe you had some comments?
Yes, the applicant has noted referrals and has noted the permits that have been required. You know, they have pretty much all their permits. They're waiting for the ECB one, which should be available on the 20th of this month. They have to still do the DOT stormwater, which they're working with the DOT, that's pending. Approval from both the town and the DOT for the stormwater pollution prevention plan is most likely needed, but it's still under review here. Everything's been reviewed. We've had public meetings with the various entities, so I think they're ready to go. It's just a matter of just closing up those little buttons there. Easy stuff.
And Pat?
They've addressed all the planning issues. We don't want their dam to break, so Godspeed, fix your dam. The primary issues we have with this relate to traffic management and so forth, and that's really in the hands of DOT. But that will be an inconvenience for folks, and we need to be aware of how that road's being closed during construction.
I've actually driven out there. You can see the, I don't know, bowing's the right word, but you can see. Just for everyone's benefit and those listening on TV, can you just give us a little overview of the project, why you're doing this? I mean, I think everyone's going to like that you're doing it, but I'm more interested in you communicating what needs to be done here.
Sure. My name is Eric LeClaire. I work for CDM Smith. We're the engineering consultant for New York City DEP. Have with me Linda Singh.
I'm Linda Singh. I'm the Deputy Portfolio Manager representing DEP.
So the Crow 534 project that's contemplated here is a slight widening of US Route 6 to repair some issues at the very top of the slope of the dam. We're also going to be placing some additional fill on the downstream slope, exposed slope of the dam, to address a portion of the crest of the dam where the road traverses across it that's over steepened. Essentially, the bulk of the dam itself is at about a 2.4-on-1 slope. That section about 15 feet below the road is steepened up to closer towards 2-to-1, or even maybe slightly steeper than that. It's just something that occurred in the past when the road was widened at some point. They just didn't, obviously fill the dam at the time when they were working on the road. So this project seeks to address that issue. As the gentleman noted, if you drive across that area, you can see there's some longitudinal cracking in the pavement. You can see the guide rail is leaning away a little bit, and you can see the utility poles themselves are leaning away a little bit. That's an indication of, again, the upper portion of the slope slightly subsiding. It's not a major safety issue for the dam itself. It's a very localized issue, but we do want to take care of it so that it doesn't become a larger issue in the future. As Rich mentioned, and Pat mentioned, we've been working with the town to try to set up, address the concerns about traffic. The work itself, the construction of the road portion will be constructed at night. During the daytime hours, both lanes will be reopened, but at night there'll be alternating one-way traffic controlled by signals. But again, during the day it'll be reopened. There may be some interim like gravel surfaces, so the speeds will be reduced through there, but it will be open to two-way traffic during the day.
Is it 2 shifts at night, or one, is it,
It'll be a single work shift. They'll start at 8 p.m. at night and finish by about 4 a.m. With the work on the road, and they'll be off the site by about 6 a.m. so that the road can be reopened to normal morning peak hour traffic. The work itself is going to take place over about a 2-year construction cycle. The first year of construction will be focused on placing the fill on the dam, so most of the work will happen down below, away from the road and whatnot. They'll be doing that work other than the deliveries of fill and whatnot that are coming in. In the second year is when they'll do the road construction itself, and we anticipate that'll take a couple of months while they're doing that work on the road itself. So that's a general.
There's not a lot of space to work. There's really a construction management, project management type job that's going to need a lot of oversight, right?
Absolutely. The department will have a full-time construction manager on site. They'll have their trailer set up there along with the contractor's trailer. So anytime the contractor is working, there'll be representatives from the construction management firm that are there monitoring them as they're constructing the work. And if there's any kind of issues that come up, they'll be there to address it and give direction to the contractor.
So maybe it's a Joe question, maybe it's a team question, but so how do we communicate something like this to the community, right? Because we're here and a small percentage of the people are watching on TV, but this should be something that gets into the newspaper or something that. Signage, newspaper, something.
Maybe, starting, whatever your start date is.
I mean, I think you have a great project. Yes, we're replacing a dam proactively. But we should tell people, we should communicate. Maybe it's more on us, but you must do this all the time. We should let the community know what's going on, time frame, and it's a positive project.
Sure, yeah, and I don't want to speak directly for the department. I know the department has public information folks that provide information to the communities where they're doing projects. I'm certain that they could be involved to help share that information. And if there's things that, like progress or updates, things like that need to be shared or can be shared with the town, for addition to your own website where maybe the residents would be familiar to go and look, we certainly could provide information.
Any thoughts from Joe, Mike, Rich, Pat on this? How do we communicate?
I mean, we had discussed this, if you guys remember Eric and Linda, we had discussed this very early on. Mike was there, Pat was there. They're going to provide public service announcements for us that we're going to be able to post on the town webpage. We're going to be able to post on the public service channel that we have, the Cablevision. So it'll get there. It'll be, well, we can always ask the town board, planning board to make announcements. You can make an announcement at the beginning or an end of a meeting saying, remember this project's going on. So those are the type of things that can be done. There will be signage, if I'm not mistaken, and they've been in touch with the various agencies. So the important folks that need to know, police, fire, the hospital, they're aware of this project. They've met with those stakeholders. The school districts have been made aware of it. The garbage company's been made aware of it. Again, that public service announcement, when they get it back out to us, will be redistributed to those stakeholders so that they're aware of it. We will get the message out as best as we can, but again, it'll be what it'll be at that point in time.
And Mr. Chairman, DOT has their own requirements for signage for their permitting process, and ordinarily these days you see the portable signs. that have the
Yeah.
So that may be a requirement that DOT imposes on the city.
Would the work week start on Sunday night through Thursday night?
That's the expectation, yes.
My thought being more traffic on Friday and Saturday evenings, you would have 2 lanes then at that point.
Correct.
And I believe they also discussed emergency services having a panic button of some sort that they could get through if they have to. They don't have to wait for the alternating times.
Thank you, yes. There'll be an override essentially for the light, so that it'll be available to the emergency services so they can, as they come up, they can activate the light and allow them to go through.
And the first step, you can wait there, 11 o'clock at night, you go all the way around.
Anthony, you want to make a motion?
Sure. If there's no other comments or questions, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to schedule a public hearing.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Rose distributed the minutes of February 9th. Would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. I reviewed the minutes, made very, very minor comments, and I think they were a good job. So I move
Do we have a second?
approval.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Make a motion to adjourn.
And Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor? Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.